Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. We just wrapped up our interview with Liz Nowlin, Investor Relations Specialist from Mid-South Home Buyers. And this time we had Terry Kerr, who is CEO and founder of Mid-South Home Buyers. Anthony, what's a takeaway or two you had?
For one, in regards, I think a lot of our listeners, many of them are already investing in real estate, but I think quite a few are just starting out, right? They're not sure where to go or kind of how it all works. I think a turnkey provider is a great way to start. As Liz had talked about, she's going to hold your hand through the entire process. They manage the whole thing. So I think if you're going to go into real estate, this is a great place to start. And one thing we do, and often I imagine not all of our listeners live in Memphis or Little Rock in the markets that they're in. And it could be a little hesitant to invest in a market that's not in your backyard. They encourage you to come to a tour, and that they have once a month. My wife and I went there recently in October, got to meet the team, a tour of their facility, and they even took us a tour around a couple of the houses so we could see what the houses look like in the process of production. And we have a couple of houses there, but kind of embarrassed to say we had so much fun that we were like, all right, let's get an Uber to go to our houses. And we're like, all right, this will take cost about $200 and maybe about half the afternoon. And we just looked at each other. It's like, we're good. Yeah. We got that comfort of knowing the team and seeing the facility. So, but it would be a great opportunity for you to go down there and meet the team and to see Memphis yourself. Cam, what was a takeaway or two that you had?
I wrote down a couple things. Two of them, first one being some of the big obstacles or concerns that people are having right now in buying turnkey properties. One would be the interest rate, and then two is property management. And they addressed both of them in this interview. Great opportunity to buy down interest rates at this point. She did share a number that was in the fives, which I was surprised to hear. And then obviously the property management. They have in-house property management, so we're big fans of that. And then the other thing that I wrote down was probably a little bit more intangible. This is more of a testament to working with people that enjoy their jobs, right, and enjoy what they do. One of the things that she said is that they want, when somebody calls in, whether it's an investor or a potential client for them, is they want them to call in and hear a smiling voice on the other end of the phone. And I thought that was key just because, right, we get a lot of phone calls. We talk to a lot of people, and you can tell if somebody's smiling or not, right? And so I thought that was great. But I hope you guys enjoy this interview. Again, it was with Terry Kerr. Terry is the founder and CEO of Mid-South Home Buyers. Over the last 22 years, Mid-South Home Buyers has purchased, renovated, and sold 4,500 single-family homes in Memphis and Little Rock, Arkansas, to investors all across the U.S. and the globe. And Liz is an avid real estate professional investor. And for the last 14 years, she's been working side by side with Terry, helping to build Mid-South Home Buyers into one of the most successful turnkey providers in the U.S. And we're big fans of him. We're honored to have him on the show.
Enjoy the episode.
Take care. If you're an investor or want to be an investor and you're looking to create passive income that exceeds your monthly expenses, then this is the podcast for you. Here on the Infinite Wealth Podcast, we combine the philosophies of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad, along with Nelson Nash's infinite banking concept. Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. And today I'm excited because we have one of our very first guests is coming back.
Yeah.
Liz Nowlin, and she is going to be accompanied by Terry Kerr, the CEO and founder of Mid-South Home Buyers. So we are excited to have you both joining us today. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having us. We're stoked to be here.
Our favorite show.
Yeah.
Mine too.
Good one, Liz.
Mine too. Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, actually, I think they were episode 3 or 4. Like you guys were in the first 10.
Yeah.
Cool.
We took a chance.
And if you do go back to listen to it, like we've improved the quality quite a bit.
Well, I know I have. As an interview, yeah, I've been great. Anthony's lacking a little bit, but it's not about us. It's about you guys, right?
That's what I try to tell everybody. It's all about us.
We are excited to have you. So I'm going to tee it up just a little bit here. Give us a little bit of background. Tell us who you guys are and your roles in Mid-South.
Sure. So we've been around for about 22 years. Turnkey outfit, buy it, fix it, rent it, sell it, manage it. We've got a hardware store on site where we're procuring all of our materials. So just a bunch of vertical integration that allows us to be efficient and provide value all the way around the horn.
Yeah. I started in property management when I was 19, a couple different decades ago. Came into Terry on the property management side 15 years ago. Got him to 100% occupancy in about a week. And he said, would you like to work with the investors? And I said, I would love to. And that was 15 years ago. And we were managing 83 houses when I joined. And today, how many are we managing?
About 4750. And actually, Liz is being nice. What happened was she was so badass that I pulled her aside and said, look, I know that you're going to quit if I can't find a better track for you. Will you please work with our investors? And she graciously said yes.
Thank goodness.
So Liz, what does that mean in regards to you working with investors?
Man, it's so cool. It means that I get to help folks break into real estate. Sometimes it's their 400,000, and we have super seasoned pros that where they're kind of darlings. But really, one of my favorite clients to work with is brand new folks. I help folks that often might be literally renting in Manhattan or renting in Santa Monica, where it's a couple million to be an owner occupant, and so I'm helping them with their first real estate purchase in life. And of course, many people maybe are just owner occupants in their hometown, but the prospect of buying real estate out of state gives you butterflies. It makes it can be nervous, but a lot of people are not positioned. Well, I'll say this: Memphis and Little Rock are super unique as far as what they bring to the table for real estate investors and for landlords, and so it just makes sense for a lot of people to live where they want to live and invest where the numbers make sense.
Awesome. I do want to talk about the two markets. First, I want to throw it over to Terry. Terry, CEO and founder. How did Mid-South come about? How did this even become created? Right? How did this service come about?
Sure. Well, like a lot of things by necessity, my wife and I had a newborn and we were renting and we wanted to keep overhead low. So we found a fixer-upper and spent 7 months working nights and weekends to fix it up, created a bunch of sweat equity and fell in love with making ugly houses pretty. My wife was super cool and supportive, and I quit the best job of my life and took a 50% pay cut for a flexible outside sales gig to try to make a run at the real estate business. And fortunately, it worked.
Well, and there's a second half of that story that I always love, because at first he was you were almost doing more the HGTV model to a degree, right? Like buy it, fix it, sell it to an owner occupant. And then you were developing rental properties for yourself. And but you bumped into...
I bumped into a buddy of mine from grade school at 11 o'clock at a gas station while I was on the way to finish at night to finish one of my rehabs. And I told him what I was doing, and he said he had a bunch of rental property, and he ended up buying that house from me. And I asked him, why would he buy a house from me when he could buy it and fix it up himself? And he said it took too much of his time, and that he was much better off buying a house that was fixed up and ready to roll than to spend all of his time finding the house and rehabbing the house and managing contractors. And so I've basically right then is when the business came about of delivering bargains to bargain hunters.
I tell you, I like how you guys are almost kind of interviewing each other. We ask a question, you're like, well, there's more meat on that story. So
we've worked together for 15 years.
Yeah, well, I would say I actually went down there in October to get a tour and to meet the team. And I did, there was a lot of things that were impressive. One, like to me, it's a lot important of the person behind the business and meeting the team and see how they work together. Do they seem happy? Are they supportive? And I was interacted with quite a few people because they take a tour. It's cool. You got to see the whole facility, and then they take you out to see some of the homes that are actually in production, or that's what they say, that they're going to take you to those homes. But I went there with my wife and we were talking to some people, and then we come out and it's like, hey, where's Liz? Where's the vans? And you guys had left us.
Sorry about that, Anthony.
It was a big tour. We had about 20 people that month, and
I'm not gonna lie, Cameron paid us to do it. It was scripted.
Dude, he would. Cameron would.
I will pay you to do that. I should pay you.
Yeah. But you know, that was a good opportunity because then I got to meet more of the team, and so I drove around with people that have been there. It was interesting to hear their story of how long that they've been with you, and they'd all seem happy. So that was very cool.
I'd love to speak to that because Terry will not brag on himself, but he makes a fantastic place to work with. I have many coworkers that have been with us for 12 and 10 and 9 and 7 years, and it matters to your listeners, to investors, because turnkey is getting married. The house makes you the most money if you buy and hold it for a 10, 15 years is really a minimum, I think, for most of our investors' goals for how long they're going to hold, which means we get to work together for 10 or 15 years. And so having a seasoned leasing agent so that your renter hears a smiling voice answer the phone in 2 rings, let alone that you're getting detailed, accurate answers about a repair, a vacancy, everything else. And you just are working with happy people that know what they're doing at every turn. And that has come out of Terry caring about the renter's quality of life, the investor's quality of lives, and his employees' quality of life. And I hope folks can come down and visit too, just like you did. We do them once a month, as you know, and it'll just, it pushes people's confidence through the roof.
Terry, I'm a big believer in nothing really happens by chance, right? So to build that culture in your company, right, it had to be some intention behind it. Why is that important to you?
Well, first off, you want to do the right thing, right? But also from a selfish standpoint, when I first got started, I guess it was in 2003, I hired my first employee. But it wasn't until I darn near had a panic attack in my driveway because I bought, rehabbed, and sold 37 houses in 1 year. And I did it with no employees, just a bunch of subs, right? But when I was building the team of contractors, mortgage brokers, attorneys, mechanical, electrical, plumbers, roofers, and all that, I wanted to make sure that everybody that I was working with wanted to do the deal again. And so if you can't talk to everybody involved in the deal, and if somebody says that they wouldn't want to do the deal again, the question is why, right? And so you use that question and the answers to sharpen the tool and just achieve balance and be able to give value to the contractors and the attorneys and the investors and the employees and the residents. But the only way that you can give value all the way around the horn and still stay in business is to be efficient. And that's what we work on every single day. I'd say that our managers are working more on the business than they are in the business and supporting their team. And so I know that was a lot there, but that's kind of brings it full circle.
Awesome. I love that. Thanks for sharing. And for how I'd say this is that, right, we interviewed Liz a while back, but our listener base has grown quite a bit. We brought on a bunch of different clients. And so for those that are new, maybe Terry, if you could give us kind of an overview of what your business is as a turnkey provider.
Sure. So turnkey, you can, anyone or not anyone, but you can go out and you can buy a house that needs a bunch of fixing up, and you can spend a bunch of time fixing it up and spend your time doing that instead of spending it with your family or work or whatnot. And so turnkey is buying a property that is already fully renovated. It already has a resident in place paying the rent, and purchasing that property with the management in place. And so a turnkey provider will serve up mortgage brokers, attorneys, insurance companies, will maintain the property and collect the rent and send the cash flow directly to the purchaser of the property. So everything is turnkey.
and you get the connection too, because the seller of the property is also the manager of the property. You get a fantastic kind of setup where all of the accountability is in the same place, both for, hey, the physical condition of the renovation, the occupancy, very importantly, the rent. So we have written guarantees. We have a 1-year total guarantee on the renovation of the property. That means we're responsible for any repairs to our renovation during that time. And we have a lifetime occupancy guarantee that is a way of saying, hey, this rent that we had the property set at when you purchased it, that's a real rent. We didn't price this rent to sell the house for quite a bit, and then you're going to experience a lot of vacancy and turnover because we're pushing the market so hard on what the rent is.
So can you expand on that rent? So that means you will rent it for that amount or more for the lifetime of the property? Is that what I'm hearing?
So what's written into our management agreement for any home that an investor buys from us is that if your home is ever vacant for more than 90 days, we will start paying you the market rent on that property from the 91st day until we get a renter in there. And I would say that of the investors that I talk to that have rental property, whether it's self-managed at home, but most often when it's from other turnkey providers, 30% is extremely conservative to say that many people have experienced a vacancy longer than 90 days. And that warranty doesn't cost us any money. Our properties are not staying vacant for that long. I'll have people kind of want to ask a lot of questions about when it might kick in, and it's a real guarantee. I'm happy to answer those, but I explain it's actually there to let you know that our rents are real. And let me explain what that means. One of the biggest places that the bodies are buried in this industry is inflated rents to an out-of-state investor to support a higher purchase price. A lot of investors are from really high cost of living coastal cities where they could not know that this 3-bedroom house in Memphis, Tennessee is overpriced at $1,050, and their purchase price, everything else is running off of that. And I think what people don't understand is how tight that correlation is. So about $25 in rent will support $4,000 more in purchase price. It's huge, right? So as a turnkey provider, what's the carrot in front of your nose? Man, if you have a choice, you can have a vacancy for 30 days at $975 rent, or you can hold a vacancy for 9 months or for 3 or 4 months on your end, get a renter in at $1,025 and sell that house for $8,000 more. But then that vacancy you suffered, you passed it on to the purchasing investor. And so that's what that guarantee is really about, is that these rents are set to make the phone ring off the hook, give us a huge pool of qualified applicants to choose from. And that I'll say this, we track everything. We track all of our days. We track all kinds of metrics with computer systems. And our average days from move in to move out is 29.67432. That's not to get the paint done. That's not to get the work done. That's not to take a deposit. That's move in to move out. Anyone that's done this before or is in the property management world will know that is a fast turn.
Yeah, and one of the ways to figure that out quickly for folks that are shopping for turnkey sellers out there, and granted, we want to work with all your listeners, but we know that folks may want to, shop in different markets. And so one of the ways to do that is to check and see what the occupancy rate is for the property management company, because the occupancy rate is going to tell the tale. There are lots of questions that folks can ask and can go to our website to learn how to shop for turnkey sellers in any market. And so I encourage your listeners to go check it out if they're looking to kick the tires anywhere.
Now, when somebody buys a house, typically how quickly is a tenant in there?
The resident's in the property before we even market it for sale. So the resident is in the property and paying the day they buy the house.
Yeah, we've taken a deposit if I've offered the house, and that means the move-in is going to be within 25 to 30 days. So it's kind of the perfect time to start it. Your roof is new, your furnace is new, your renter's lease is new. But no real vacancy on the purchaser side.
Well, and I can speak from experience on that, because especially when I bought my first house through, you guys, I was looking at all the details, and I was looking at the appraisal, and I looked at the appraisal, and there were some red Dixie cups on the table. And then I looked at another room, and there's like a bed and a TV. And then I'm like, Liz, somebody lived in my house.
Sorry about
And
that.
she's like, it ain't your house yet until you close, but we already got a tenant in there. So by the time, before I even closed, there was already somebody in there already. So I was collecting rent from one day. And I will say, Liz, I think I shared this with you. I bought, I recently bought another rental property, closed in October. It's February. What was it? It's mid-February. Still don't have a tenant in there.
Oh, you're almost at the 90-day guarantee part.
Well, it was interesting. They have 120-day.
Okay.
I mean, and it's just to pay the mortgage, not the rent. So I think that's just a couple things that there are differences between different turnkey providers. So I mentioned one or two. Are there any others that differences that you want to point out that makes Mid-South unique?
You know, so our COO, our CFO, I heard him talking to some folks the other day, and he said there are a lot of ingredients in the secret sauce. But the thing is the sauce, it's not a secret. We just do a lot of little things that leave meat on the bone everywhere. And, you know, one of the secret sauces is we don't make as much money as a management company. We don't charge near as much for resident placement. We don't charge application fees to our residents. We make them jump through all the same hoops, but we absorb those fees because we know by doing so, we'll get a lot more residents come to apply with us, which allows us to find a better applicant quicker to make the property perform better. And those are just a couple of little things that we do. You know, we buy materials in bulk and store them in a warehouse, so our technicians aren't having to go stand in line at Home Depot on the investor owner's dime buying a part for the water heater. So there's all these little things that we do to maximize the efficiency of the business, but there is no one home run thing. It's not even hitting singles. It's just taking baby steps to the bases and then having managers and a business model and tracking things like Liz said and measurements to where we know when something starts to get out of whack and the red flag is raised and it goes on a meeting agenda and then we talk about it. So it's just a bunch of little things.
Well, and I can speak on that. When you gave us a tour of the warehouse before you guys left me there, there was like 20 of the exact same doors, right? And then there was, 15 of the exact same countertop, so you guys were able, it makes it more efficient. And I would imagine even when things break, you have an easy replacement that is going to fit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Anthony, even talking the difference between the 90-day versus the 120-day or paying the rent in full versus the mortgage. I have a property that's third-party managed in my hometown of St. Louis, and they charge renters $60 per adult for the application fee. So basically $120 for your typical couple. Is that going to keep people from applying? No, but they're going to go home. And think about it. If your rent is $1,000 a month, if that's your budget for where you live, $120 is not small change. And you don't even know if you're going to get approved or not. You're going to go home and think about it for 3 or 4 days when our leasing agents can take the application over the phone. Literally, people call off the side in the yard. And we do it over the phone. That's part of that 30 days. Other just little things, a bunch of ingredients in the secret sauce recipe. They only use contractors for repairs. So if they call Electrician LLC out to my house, that guy's not going to report back if there's a pet. That guy's not going to report back if that renter isn't keeping the house very clean. Our in-house techs are trained out the wazoo from not only a lot of our houses are on the same streets and in the same areas. If they notice a lifted shingle or a car parked in the yard on one of our other houses as they're driving to the house where the repair is, that's going to get called in too. And then not only is the sink drip going to get fixed, if there's anything to observe about the property they're in, that's going to get communicated back in a way that the repairman, an outside repairman, is just not going to pass on any of that information. And yeah, just a bunch of little details.
Liz, one story you had shared, which I thought was very interesting, and maybe you could reshare it, but you went into great detail of the lamp outside, like the outside lamp on the porch. Do you mind sharing that? Do you remember that story?
Yeah, I do. It touched my heart because I love working for someone that will spend more money on the front end so that he can charge people less money on the back end. It makes my job super easy as far as people coming back more and more. And so, this story, I think, also speaks to what being in business for 22 years will do for you, or 23. So we used to use this light fixture next to our front door as a porch light, if you will. And it had the jelly jar, the glass dome, if you will, with the screws. And we kept seeing that light fixture on investors' bills between renters. Renters would just either drop the jar while they were changing the light bulb and change it, or lose it. Who knows? The houses were coming back to us and that glass dome was missing over and over. That light fixture cost us $4 a unit. Well, in response to that, as Terry says, we're tracking everything. If something looks like a problem, it hits meeting agendas. We switched to a light fixture that cost us $18 a unit, but it's open at the end. The renter can reach their hand right in there and screw that light bulb in. And boom, now we don't see it on investors' get-ready bills anymore.
And they look better. And residents like curb appeal just like homeowners do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We use Sherwin-Williams paint in the houses. That is not the cheapest paint. I moved into a pretty expensive house that the owner had painted with the cheapest paint he could get his hands on. And I can tell because if I lick my thumb and touch the wall, there is a mark forevermore. And I'm going to have to repaint a 5,000 square foot house because I didn't ask what brand of paint had been newly put on it. And so, again, just a bunch of little details.
Guys, I got a question for you. Who's buying these houses? Liz, you mentioned earlier that a lot of the buyers are, I think you said a penthouse in Manhattan on the coast of California, something like that. But who's a typical buyer? Who's finding you guys?
Man, we have investors. It's really fun. It's one of the funnest parts of my job. We have investors in 17 different countries around the world and all 50 states. We have Japanese investors that work with us solely through translators, tons of Australian investors, you name it.
Lots of military folks, just from selling our first house to a guy in the military, and then told his buddies who told his buddies, and so big military presence.
Yeah, a lot of firefighters. I think because they're hanging out in the firehouse. Huge percentage of firefighters.
Musicians in Nashville. That pin drop happened, and
we have some Grammy Award winning investors, which is fun. We're particularly suited actually to people in creative professions because there's not that 401ks are really how you should be doing retirement anyway. We all know that, but they particularly are aware that it's not a stable income, but they can have really high income years, for short periods of time. So,
what does the purchase process look like for somebody? Right. So if somebody calls you up and says, "Hey, I'd like to buy a house," what does that look like from there?
So, so Liz or Bill will chat with them and, ask them what kind of questions they have. Most of the time or a lot of time, folks have already been to our website. There's a whole lot of information on there. Like I mentioned earlier about how to shop for a turnkey provider in any market. But Liz will talk to them, Bill will talk to them and let them know, what the timeline is we have a short wait list. Of a few months until we can sell someone a house. We're working hard to get our new construction rolling to satisfy the demand. But yeah, it's hopping in line for a short wait and then waiting to get served up properties by Liz, and then introduction to a mortgage broker if you're financed, or if cash. Obviously no need to finance.
Yeah. And man, we hold your hand through the whole process. We've got the best people for the title work and title insurance. We're going to get you a quote for homeowners insurance just as a courtesy through the process, and just make sure it's really easy. We also pride ourselves on being easy to work with. So for example, there's no earnest money with our purchase agreements. It's going to be the only real estate deal you do in your life where you don't write a check that you could possibly forfeit if you don't close. And that's because we want everything to be contingent on your happiness. Like our whole goal is that you are either popping champagne or confetti at the closing table. And so that's kind of how we do it. And it's about a 30-day close, typically from the day you select your house till the day you go under contract. I keep sending people houses till they see the ones they want. Sometimes people think when they get to the top, I'm just going to assign them something, or they only have 5 to pick from, or I'll only send them houses for 30 days. Not at all. We just get you matched with your kind of dream investment property. And yeah, it's smooth and easy. And then once you've closed, we get you set up with property management. We're auto depositing rents into the bank account of your choice every month. And that's it.
Awesome. I heard 2 things in there. One is, right, you guys are out there going and finding houses to renovate, right? And then offer up to investors. And then, Terry, you mentioned new construction in there. I want to touch on that. How are you guys going out there and finding properties to renovate? What's your bandwidth, right? How many are you offering up over the course of a year? And then, Terry, lead us into kind of that new construction. Tell us how that came about too.
Sure. So we're doing about 450 rehabs, traditional rehabs per year. And we could do a lot more if we went into areas that wouldn't serve our investors, but we're real particular. And we like the properties, not that just need a little bit of a paint job and a condenser. We like the houses that have been neglected for a long time. Memphis, Tennessee is 52% of the market is rental. And there are a lot of homegrown landlords here that ended up retiring from their day jobs and then were living on the rental income and didn't fix the water heater or leaky roof, and we're just kind of milking the property. And so a lot of the stuff that we're buying is coming out of probate, or they're bulk packages from retired landlords that just don't have the ability to manage the properties anymore. And those properties tend to have been neglected. And the great thing about buying a property like that is when we're done with the rehab, everything is brand new. It's not just a new bath and a new roof. It's a new roof, new HVAC, new electrical panel, new plumbing, updated electrical, gutted kitchens, gutted bathrooms, new flooring, the whole deal. So it's almost like a new house. And then we've had investors for many years asking us, when are we going to start doing new construction? And we've just taken baby steps every year, and we didn't want to start new construction until we felt like our foundation was ready. And so a couple of years ago, we decided to make that leap, and we started in Little Rock, and it's going terrific. The residents love them. Our investors love them. And we are now just putting our toe in the water here in Memphis, doing scattered lot new construction, picking up lots in existing neighborhoods, and building from scratch. So just like the rehab process is pretty much an assembly line, we're able to start the assembly line production with new construction here in Memphis as well.
Awesome. You mentioned a couple different markets in there. What markets are you guys in? I think I heard Little Rock and Memphis. Are there any others that you're expanding to?
Just Little Rock and Memphis. There's plenty here for us to do right now, and never say never. But right now we're gonna focus on Memphis and Little Rock.
Yeah, Memphis and Little Rock check so many boxes. It's really hard if Memphis is 10 boxes. Every other market might have 8 or 9, but you kind of can't put out a product that's a little bit less than your other product and have it actually work. And from the landlord tenant law to even just the default, houses here are kind of the Goldilocks construction style. You don't want a house to be too giant or too small. And then new construction has helped us shorten our wait times for property. Were as long as almost 2 years at one.
Remember.
Yeah. And I mean, I kind of say if you're setting up folks with something that has been profitable for them for 20 years, you should have a line, but we still don't want the wait to be any longer. And the new construction has helped that. And then there's now loan programs out where we're able to offer better interest rates on the new construction houses. And that's really neat.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the product is called a forward commitment, and it's something that mortgage companies can do and it was developed by national builders who were building new subdivisions. And so the main thing is if one is willing to buy and commit to a very large amount of money that they're going to put on the street as far as sales goes, you can buy the interest rate down that doesn't have anything to do with a house. And so it's called a forward commitment. And so you purchase this rate down to a certain point, and then once you have properties to serve up, you can attach that forward commitment rate buy down to that property. And so it's not something that was very prevalent until interest rates went up, but it's something that's becoming more popular nowadays, especially with folks that have the ability to serve up a lot of properties to their investor partners.
Yeah, and I think what's special about it as well is that the purchaser retains the ability to buy the rate down further, and that's really what makes it unique. So a seller can contribute up to 3% of closing cost if it's to an owner occupant. By law, they can contribute 2% if it's an investment property. But 2% of a purchase price in a rental property, maybe that's $4,000 on the very highest end, right? And your typical buyer borrower can walk in and maybe buy down 3 points. Well, what we're able to offer our investors on our new construction property is we're already buying the rate down to 6.1. It's 6.1 when you walk in the door versus say 7.5. So we can take it along, but in other scenarios, it'd be done, right? You'd have contributed everything you can. There's no more room. With this forward commitment program, you can then buy it down as much as you want. So for example, on the new construction, we're going to be offering in the next couple of weeks to the investors at the top of our wait list. They'll be able to get, I think, 5.8 if they buy it down a little bit further. So, fives are pretty gone now. So we love it.
Yeah, great to hear the fives. If somebody's listening, they're brand new, like what do they need to know? Do you guys have a preferred lender list? Can they go to your website? What would be the next steps for somebody?
Definitely go to the website and check out the houses that are there and familiarize yourself with the properties and read the due diligence section and click the little button that says more info and you'll hear from Liz and her crew, and they'll be in touch asking you if you got any more questions. And like I said, they'll be happy to hop on a phone call and answer any and all questions that your listeners have, Cameron.
Great. If I've been to the website's great, ton of information, but one of the things that's on there is the inventory, right? As somebody looks at that inventory, can you guys maybe give us a snapshot of one of the properties or maybe set some expectations of what they'd see when they go there?
Absolutely. And I love that question too, because they're all under contract to investors at the top of the wait list, but they are identical to the houses I would have for your viewer. We are the most formulaic company out there. The rent determines the price. The cost of taxes and insurance are extremely consistent throughout town. And then the renovation is identical. So folks will start to see, okay, this is the same kitchen every time. This is the same bathroom every time. There's a button that says property details. I have people think that rehab list is some generic copy and paste because it looks so identical per house that I've actually added a note that says, this is unique to this house because that's how formulaic our renovation is. And so essentially, if you see 123 Maple Street on that website today, and that would be a fit for you, I will have 240 Maple Street for you. And then that price to, so a typical, our pricing is going to be from about $100,000 up to maybe $230,000 with easily 80% of our inventory between, I'm going to say 125 and 145. Super affordable entry. Memphis is one of the cheapest places to live. I love living here. We're about the 48th biggest city in the U.S. So that just means we have world-class restaurants. Anthony, I think you had some good food while you're in town. Concerts, tours, and you can live in a safe neighborhood for under $1,000. It's really awesome. But and so that's fully renovated. I want to clarify that's fully renovated pricing in a stable neighborhood, because I know probably where a lot of folks live, you can't get a house for 130 in either of the in good condition and in a good neighborhood. That we're looking, you'll see about a 20% IRR, internal rate of return, on the house for that rent to price to rent relationship. It's roughly a 0.8 price to rent relationship. I'm going to say an average cash flows 330, probably, just rent after minus mortgage.
Just a comment about these houses kind of being similar. My name has been called on the waiting list. So I even looked at a house today, or it was yesterday. This was the house that my wife and I toured. But then I started thinking that was like 4 months ago. That house was almost done. So it probably wasn't the same house, but because the carpet and the paint and the countertops and everything looked the same, that I thought it was.
I always say the tours get boring in a really good way. And that's something, so we do group tours once a month. It's super fun. It's often a tax write-off for most people, but regardless, we're going to give you $500 towards your closing cost on your first house as a thank you for coming out. They're always on a Friday, so you can hinge it to a weekend in town, see Graceland, what have you. And folks can reach out and come check that out. But they always say the tours get boring in a good way, because you're in that third or fourth hour of the tour, you're at the fourth or fifth house, and people are like, yeah, I get it. They all feel the same. They all look the same. Where do I sign? It's kind of usually what's next.
Is there a difference in pricing between the two markets?
No, they're almost identical. There might be a couple of $1,000, but they're almost identical. And that's one of the things that we liked about Little Rock, besides the fact that I have family there that doubled as our acquisitions manager. So we knew we had a pro on the ground who was already in the business. Awesome.
So what's a way, if somebody wants to learn more, what's the best way to connect with you guys?
So, midsouthhomebuyers.com is our website. Anything you click or call off that website is going to lead to me. The phone numbers, the emails, all of the buttons. I am literally just Liz, Liz, at midsouthhomebuyers.com. We're very responsive. We really pride ourselves on communication. We love chatting real estate. It's okay if somebody's not in the market right now and they just want to start talking. And so, whether it's shooting an email, reaching out through the website, giving us a call, we're here.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate your time. Really appreciate the information you provided to our listeners. Thanks again for joining us.
Hey, thanks you guys. And Cameron, if you come to town, we'll make sure not to leave you at the shop like we did Anthony.
Well, I'm going to pay a pretty penny to make sure he's lost. And somehow there's an extra $100 if somebody can mess up his hair.
Done.
Right. And I want it on video, another 100. Okay, so let's make it happen. But thanks for coming on, guys. We appreciate it, and go make it a fantastic day.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, y'all too.
If you like this video, I know you're like this one. And if you want to learn how investors use infinite banking to increase their returns and lower their taxes, check this out. And if you have some questions and want to see if infinite banking is for you, hop on a discovery call with us. Link for that will be in the description.